Welcome back to the Done Deal Show. I'm joined by Pete O'Rourke. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good, Terry. It's getting busy out there. A lot of big deals starting to take shape right now. So yeah, we've just about 4 weeks left in this transfer window, and expecting a lot of movement up and down the country, really.
Absolutely. And a lot of this is sort of stemmed out of the big boys coming back to training, essentially. Harry Kane returning or not returning, as it were. Still, didn't come back from his holiday on time. Jack Grealish did a day in training. Then he's up to Manchester for medicals. You've got the Lukaku Haaland scenario. It's been, for me, sort of watching it, an absolutely enthralling past couple of days, in the market, but lots still to delve into, to talk about, and as we move into the real business end of the campaign. And I think one really great place to start is with Harry Kane and the situation with him and his potential exit from Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, it's going to drag on, this one. I think the Harry Kane situation, as we all know, he has not turned up for training back at Tottenham so far, with a lot of sort of contrasting reports suggesting he's isolating after coming back from his holidays, while others that he's obviously gone on strike and not returned to Tottenham. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still pretty adamant. I've been adamant throughout this whole transfer window that Harry Kane will not leave Tottenham this summer, and I just think the current situation with what's going on might just further harden Tottenham's stance to keep hold of Harry Kane. Daniel Levy's not going to like what's going on. From what I know, he was pretty infuriated throughout the summer with the interview that Harry Kane gave to Gary Neville right at the start of the summer, even before the season had finished, when he suggested that he was ready to move on in search of trophies, and basically suggested he would be up for a move to Manchester City. And then we had that big story come out from his brother's wedding that they were claiming from the Sun that a deal was done for £160 million. That didn't go down too well at Tottenham either, who had to come out and deny those reports. So, as much as Harry Kane's desire is to go to Manchester City, I think Tottenham hold all the cards in this one still. If Tottenham aren't willing to pay what Tottenham are demanding for Harry Kane will remain at the club. But to be fair to Harry Kane, I question whether he would rock the boat and sort of try and force a move. Not turning up to training seems to be the first move that Kane's gone to try and force Tottenham's hand and try and fight his way out of the club, like others have done in the past. Gareth Bale and Luka Modric had to work hard to try and get moves out of Tottenham when they're dealing with Daniel Levy. So Harry Kane, although the recent situation maybe has tarnished his reputation with some of the Spurs fans, it's pretty obvious now that he's going to try and do everything he possibly can to get that move to Manchester City.
Yeah, and I think that what you put on there really all the tactics from him, I kind of felt they were coming. A lot of people denied that he would do it, but I just feel he's got to that stage now. What I'm really intrigued to find out is why he's frustrated. And I'm one of these people that I celebrated the way Raheem Sterling got out of Liverpool. I think people, I don't know, I'm that way because I don't find clubs are particularly loyal to players that they don't want anymore. So I don't tend to, when it comes to the other end of the spectrum, when a player they're desperate to keep wants to leave, I don't mind the tactics. So some players turn up to training thinking they're going to be there ahead of the season and get brought into an office to say, listen, from Monday morning, you're not going to be a so-and-so player anymore. So I have no sympathy for Tottenham in that regard. In terms of the money you mentioned, we know there's been £100 million bid that's gone in so far from City. What do you think City, what have you heard that City are willing to bid? In conjunction with that, what would be the acceptable amount from a Tottenham point of view to get the deal done in terms of what you've heard in the market?
Well, acceptable point for Spurs. A lot of talk of this £160 million mark. Spurs will point to the Jack Grealish situation now. He's on his way to the Etihad for a fee of around £100 million. I know there's a slight difference in this, that he might have a buyout in his clause at Villa, which it looks like City have activated. Harry Kane doesn't have that in his contract to Tottenham, so it makes it harder for the two clubs to deal with this one and try to come to an agreement. But they'll say Harry Kane, a more established player than the Jack Grealish, has played Champions League football, England captain, whatever, one of the all-time top scorers in the Premier League, and probably will break that record if he does remain in the Premier League with either Tottenham or Manchester City. So they'll be thinking market value. If Jack Grealish is worth 100 million, they'll be looking at least 140 million, I think, for Harry Kane. And will City go to that? I'm not too sure. I think they've maybe got a ceiling on this one. 120 million, I think they might go to for Harry Kane. I think if they put 100 million on the table, if they're going to bid again for Harry Kane, I think 120 million will be the next starting point for City. And City were always keen to maybe include players in this deal, like a player swap plus cash deal to try and encourage Tottenham to do it. Tottenham haven't been too keen in that one, and then even the players that have been mentioned as possible makeaways in the deal haven't been too up for possibly moving to North London because they don't want to be leaving Manchester City and going to a team that's not even playing in Europe next season. Well, not playing in the Champions League, so it's a real difficult one. This I just don't know. We've got 4 weeks left of the window. Seems like there's going to be a lot of to and froing, and we've seen it before with Tottenham. Dimitar Berbatov all those years ago went right down the deadline day before he sealed his move to Manchester United for a big money deal at the time. So it could be a similar situation with Harry Kane. I just think now Jack Grealish is going to City for 100 million. Unless City offload some players, I just can't see this deal happening.
I hear you on that. It's one of them. It's one that looks uncertain. However, no one 7-8 weeks ago thought Varane was going to United. 2 days ago, every outlet in Italy said that Lukaku to Chelsea was an impossibility. Even Pep Guardiola himself said they can't afford £100 million one player, and they've gone and done it. That's why it's so exciting, because it can happen, but it will be difficult. Are Tottenham looking at any replacements for Kane or any other incomings? Of course, Christian Romero is now secured in through the door. They've signed Hill. What's the latest on incoming players to Tottenham?
Yeah, Tottenham still working hard and strengthening the rest of the squad. We've obviously seen Joe Hart's left the club as well. I'm expecting them to step up their interest in the Japanese defender Hiriro Tomiyasu. Now his involvement with the Olympics is over, so he's a versatile defender who can play centre back and right back. So I would expect them to get that deal done now once the Romero one's done, which again, it's a big money deal, that Romero deal, close to £50 million, which is a big fee for the Atalanta defender, especially when people were thinking Spurs were not going to have a lot of money to spend in this transfer window. So they're obviously planning ahead and thinking, where else can we strengthen the squad? Will those types of signings be enough to convince Harry Kane that Spurs are heading in the right direction? We'll have to wait and see. But if Kane was to leave, obviously they'll have a big war chest to maybe go and make some other signings. Danny Ings has been a long-term target for Tottenham. Dusan Vlahovic of Fiorentina has also been strongly mentioned. He had a good season with Fiorentina in Serie A last year and probably available for between 30 to 40 million pounds. I still wouldn't rule out, if Kane does go, possibly a move for Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton. I think he's definitely on Tottenham's radar. They see him as being a potential number 9. He's obviously an England international now. He's at the Euros with Gareth Southgate's team as well. And I think he's an improving player, and Tottenham see him as possible replacement material for Harry Kane if they do decide to sell Kane. So I'm sure there are plenty of irons in the fire right now for Tottenham. I think their new sporting director, Fabio Paratici's been quite busy, and I think Spurs can be happy with some of the business they've done so far with Hill coming in, and also it looks like they're getting Romero through the door, and then I'm sure there'll be other signings like Tomiyasu, possibly maybe a new striker to either play alongside Kane or to replace him.
There we go. Comprehensive Tottenham update. Viewers, make sure you smash that like button right now. You share the stream in your social media platforms. You subscribe to the Football Terrace. If you want to ensure you never miss any more notifications from us, we have a brand new Telegram group chat set up. The link for that is in our description below. We'll post all of our recent videos in there so you never miss a live stream again. Also, check out all of our social media accounts, including our Discord server. We are touching as well, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go into Arsenal. We're going to go into Man United and Chelsea a little bit later on in the show. But I want to touch base with Liverpool. Liverpool fans, DMing me all the time. I'm sure you get the same thing. Peter, feed me. I'm starving. The news is starts. There were reports at the back end of last week that Saul Niguez representation were either flying to England, or we're going to be meeting with Liverpool Football Club to try and finalize a deal to take Niguez to Anfield next year. What's the latest with Saul Niguez to Liverpool and sort of the general transfer news coming out of Merseyside?
Yeah, it's been a frustrating time for Liverpool fans. Recently, they've seen all these rivals in the Premier League making big name signings, the likes of United with Sancho and Varane, Man City now with Grealish. So they're expecting Liverpool to follow suit, but just hasn't happened as yet. And that's down to Liverpool not being able to offload some of the fringe players that are no longer in Jurgen Klopp's plans, the likes of Xherdan Shaqiri, trying to sell him, Divock Origi, they would also sell him if they had the right offer. They've made a few departures with Harry Wilson going to Fulham. Marco Groix also left, but I think Jurgen Klopp's hands are a bit tied at the minute. I don't think there's going to be much activity at Anfield until players leave, and that's obviously much to the annoyance of the German because he wants to act now and bring in players. I think Florian Nehus of Borussia Mönchengladbach's been a top target, but again, they haven't been able to sanction too many bids for him to try and pay what Borussia Mönchengladbach would want for him as well. We've all seen the links with Yuri Tillemans, but I think he'll probably end up signing a new deal at Leicester. He'd be too expensive for Liverpool this summer. But Saul Niguez, definitely still on the radar, as we said a couple of weeks ago on the show, Terry. They were getting encouraging signs from Atletico Madrid that Atletico would do business and let the Spaniard leave this summer. They've obviously brought in Rodrigo de Paul from Udinese already this summer, Atletico. So I think if they receive the right offer, talking about 40 million euros, they would let Saul Niguez leave and move on for a new challenge. But even that 40 million fees seemingly a problem for Liverpool right now. Even I think wages as well could be an issue. So frustrating time for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp. Still haven't brought that replacement in for Gini Wijnaldum. And reports in Spain are suggesting that Saul Niguez still favours a move to Barcelona. But again, that might be taken out of Saul Niguez's hands because Barcelona, we all know, are in turmoil financially. Whether they could be able to afford a deal for Saul Niguez, I'm not too sure they could. So unless it's an inventive swap deal on the cards with Barcelona, I can't see him going to the Camp Nou just right now. So that keeps the door open for Liverpool. And these transfers can move quickly and there'll be twists and turns. But if Liverpool can offload some players, the likes of Origi and Shaqiri and possibly some others, Oxlade-Chamberlain's been mentioned as well, they'll bring money into the coffers, and that maybe will allow Jurgen Klopp to pursue his top targets, which Saul Niguez is definitely amongst.
Yeah, it's very interesting with Liverpool's pursuit of him. As you say, we spoke about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago on a Friday about this, and there was a lot of talk that the fee was, say, fee was agreed. Atletico said it's going to cost X. Liverpool said that's not so much a problem. It's been the contract, getting that contract down. 300,000 euros a week he's currently earning circa. I've read 6 different websites. It varies from 285 to 310 a week. Let's just say 300 to keep it round.
Yeah.
That appears to be the stumbling block for Liverpool with the majority of their deals, whether it's wages, whether it's a transfer fee, a combination of both. The reports, they vary on what the facts are, like directly, but they all loosely around the same theme, aren't they? That it's money when it comes to Liverpool Football Club. And I think that's where the frustration stems in, because Liverpool Football Club, if they miss out, will say we just weren't prepared to pay the silly wages. But I don't know how silly, in the modern day world that we're in, I don't think these are silly wages anymore for these players. It's the quality that they possess. And if there's 7 or 8 of the legacy clubs that are willing to spend it, there comes a point where Liverpool have got to sort of get on track with that, do they not?
Yeah, well, they've obviously made big improvements. They've got this new big Nike commercial deal for the kit. You'd imagine that's brought in a lot of money. The stadium's being expanded again. I think there's new plans for the Anfield Road end to have more fans in it as well. So that's going to increase revenue. We obviously know a lot of clubs have been badly affected by the COVID pandemic with no fans in through the doors, and that's affected Liverpool alongside other clubs across Europe. So I'm sure their finances have taken a hit. But for what Jurgen Klopp's done there over the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's been quite remarkable. He's got the most out of that squad. We haven't seen too many changes there to it as well. And it seems that Liverpool right now, although you say are not paying crazy wages, I think they do have the second highest wage bill in the Premier League, which they never had before, I think. So maybe it's just trimming that squad and getting rid of some of the fringe players could free up some funds for Jurgen Klopp to maybe be in the market for these marquee signings that their other rivals are going for right now. And I think we've seen maybe Liverpool's stance in that they've tied down Fabinho to a new contract. There's talks ongoing with Alisson, Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson, and then they still have to sort out the Jordan Henderson contract situation. So maybe all the money's being pushed towards those new contracts rather than towards new signings. And as much as frustrating that is for Liverpool fans, it's probably the club's policy is to tie down these players and secure them on long-term contracts.
Yeah, Liverpool fans back their club, and I understand they've created success. It's just one of these things now. They celebrate Moneyball. Moneyball's brilliant. I think well done. The problem you now have, if I'm the owner of a football club and you come knocking on my door for my striker that's valued at £25 million, thinking, hang on, you must see something in him that maybe even we haven't seen, right? You see the new Mane, you see the new Salah, the price tag is going to go up. If I'm the agent of that player, it's, well, hang on a minute. Liverpool don't sign average players. They sign almost what I like sort of unpolished gems in many ways, uncut gems. It's they find that rough they find that diamond in the rough, as it were. So everybody's going to start to want more money. If you understand where I'm coming from, there's this element of, well, if I'm coming in to be the replacement for Genie, you see me as being as good as Genie. Genie was a Champions League and Premier League winner. What do Champions League and Premier League winners get paid? X. Well, I want something close to that. And you suddenly start to get to that point, that tipping point, I think, where they have to start increasing. Otherwise, they're going to miss out on some talent. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens for Liverpool, because I know with Jack Grealish, Lukaku, Varane joining sort of title rivals, as it were, it's becoming a very nervous time for Liverpool Football Club indeed. Thank you very much for that, Pete. As we said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, smash that like button, share this stream across your social media platforms, and press that bell notification button when you subscribe right now. Now, Arsenal Football Club have been very, very busy this year, as we know, Pete. And in the last week or so, have really upped their game, looking at two of the most talented young players across Europe. In the story that you broke last week to the world and broke Twitter for a few hours, certainly, Pete, was Lautaro Martinez and, of course, James Maddison. Can you provide us an update on Arsenal's conversations, pursuits, and a likelihood of those deals coming in this summer?
Yeah, still ongoing. These ones. Arsenal still relatively hopeful that something can happen with Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan. The strange one in this one is obviously it coincides with Romelu Lukaku a bit. Inter Milan really want to keep Lukaku, but to do that, they're probably going to have to sacrifice Lautaro Martinez because they do need the funds to come in. They really are in financial turmoil, Inter Milan. And I think the owners do want to sell at least one of their star assets to bring some much needed funds in. And they would ideally prefer to sell Lautaro Martinez rather than Lukaku. So that's given Arsenal hope that a deal could be done here. Despite reports saying that Martinez would only move to Spain, that's not true. I've heard he would definitely be up for the Premier League, not necessarily just Arsenal, but anybody who maybe showed an interest in him. I wouldn't rule out Manchester City possibly coming into the race for him if the Harry Kane situation goes sour and they're not able to sign him, because we all know City are desperate for a number 9, as are Chelsea with Lukaku. So if they get told Lukaku's not happening, Lautaro Martinez isn't a bad option maybe for Chelsea to come into. But yeah, Arsenal are the first ones really to make their interest official. They've made inquiries to Inter Milan to see if they could possibly do this deal. They've offered the likes of Hector Bellerin, Alexander Lacazette's also been mentioned as a possible make-weight in this deal as well. It's gone a bit cold lately, the trail, because from what I'm hearing, Inter aren't that keen on taking Bellerin as part of the deal. So that was offered to him, but I don't think they're that happy. Maybe taking the Spaniard in part exchange. They would prefer straight up cash. Whether Arsenal have 65 million straight up cash to do this deal after signing Ben White, Lokonga, Tavares already. It might have to depend on more players departing the Emirates before Arsenal can follow this one up. But yeah, definitely Martinez seems to be the number one target if Arsenal are to go for a striker.
What do you think something that's not, I think Christophe Terrer spoke about it very briefly this morning in a tweet. Wrote something. What is the likelihood, in your opinion, of Inter Milan allowing both Martinez and Lukaku to leave? Or do you feel that it's one or the other?
I think Inter wanted to be one or the other, and that one that they want to go is Martinez. I think Lukaku's too important to them to let go. But as we all know, Terry, money talks in any business. If Chelsea go in there and offer well over £100 million for Romelu Lukaku, you would imagine Inter Milan would find that very hard to turn down. Also, I think if Arsenal came up with 65 million plus for Lautaro Martinez, they would probably take that as well. It's all down to the club's preference. Inter Milan are willing sellers, I think, for Martinez, and that probably points him more towards the exit door than Romelu Lukaku right now. But Chelsea aren't going to give up on Lukaku, and again, that could have a side effect on Arsenal's pursuit of Martinez. If Inter Milan get that big money for Lukaku, they'll say, right, that's enough for now. We'll keep Martinez, and that's Arsenal back to square one for their striker. So so many twists and turns when you've got these big deals involving big name players as well, and it kind of one if you sign one player, it can affect another club's transfer policy and transfer plans. So still a lot to happen in these Inter Milan deals. But yeah, Inter Milan obviously hold the cards right now. Both players are under contract, and until they receive the suitable offers, neither player will be moving to the Premier League just now.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, money talks in these circumstances because, as we know, that Fabrizio told us just the other day when he spoke to Inter Milan, they told him categorically that Lukaku wasn't for sale, irrespective of anything that's going on. So, no disrespect to Inter Milan, I'm not quite gonna trust what they tell me in relation to that, but it's certainly one of those things where Arsenal may need to act quick, especially with their second choice striker target, Tammy Abraham, now being looked at by Atalanta and other European clubs. It's going to be a real intriguing one to see what Arsenal do in that space. In terms of James Maddison, again, you're one of the first people really to really talk about this deal with any sort of positivity around Arsenal making this move for the attacking midfielder from Leicester. There were reports earlier on this week that a sort of player plus cash deal was made. What's your sort of most recent understanding of Arsenal's pursuit of Maddison?
Yeah, they're still undeterred in this pursuit, despite what Leicester have said to them. James Maddison is their number one target to be this creative focal point they want in the team. I think they've now moved on from Martin Odegaard. Looks like he's going to stay at Real Madrid and get minutes there. They bring James Maddison in if they possibly could. We all know he's going to be a high price tag to get a James Maddison. So Arsenal have tried to be a bit creative, like a lot of teams have had to be in this transfer window, offering players in part exchange for this one. But from what I'm hearing so far, the players that Arsenal have offered to Leicester in this deal hasn't sort of raised the interest of anybody at Leicester. They're not interested in any of the sort of bit parts that have been offered in this deal. I think the likes of Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, Ainsley Maitland-Niles have all been mentioned as possible makeways in the deal, plus money to try and convince him to sell Maddison. But so far, Leicester have said no. They're not interested in any of those players as part of the deal. So the ball is back in Arsenal's court. Will Arsenal be willing to offer other players maybe in part exchange for this deal? Maybe a Joe Willock might be offered up, who had a very good season on loan at Newcastle last year. Not sure who else Arsenal could possibly offer to tempt Leicester into a deal. But from what I'm hearing, Leicester would let James Maddison go if the offer was right, and that was probably unthinkable a few months ago. Everybody would have expected James Maddison to remain a key part of Brendan Rodgers' side, but I think they've sort of come back on themselves and thought, if we get the right deal, we'll let James Maddison go, because I know Leicester are looking at potential replacements for Maddison as well right now. If Arsenal do come up with the right offer for the England international, and we could possibly see another big name arrival at the Emirates this summer.
Yeah, listen to both the Maddison situation from you, Pete, and Lautaro. They sound similar. There's a lot of accusations being thrown around by Gooners that this is Arsenal doing a PR job. And I feel like when you listen to the facts of the matter that's being reported, it's the complete opposite to a PR job. Because what I'm hearing from you, and please correct me if I'm misinterpreting or implying something that's incorrect, both these deals are there to be done. But so far, Arsenal haven't met the asking price. They're offering players plus cash, but they haven't offered players to either team, either Inter Milan or Leicester, that those clubs want or feel are worth the valuation to make things up. That for me is the opposite to good PR. That'll infuriate fans more if it was a case of, hang on a minute, we could have signed maybe not both, but we could have signed at least one if we'd have just paid 65, if we'd have just paid the 70 million outright for him, but we're unwilling to do it. We're looking to give them fringe players that we don't want, expecting them to accept them. I mean, do you get any sense that Arsenal were just doing this to look busy, or is this a case of them just trying their best with what they've got as resources to try and land star names to improve their squad?
No, I think they're seriously interested in both players. I just think they're trying to be inventive in the transfer market. We know they're not flush with cash right now. They just spent 50 million on Ben White, so funds are probably running a bit low at the Emirates right now. So they're trying to think, can we offer players in part exchange to try and cut down the price on the deal? And if you were to bring in a Martinez and a Maddison, you still got those other players on your books, you're going to have a bit of a bloated squad. So Mikel Arteta doesn't want that. He'll be looking to work with a maximum probably of a 22, 24-man squad next season. He doesn't want many more than that. So he'll be looking to get rid of those fringe players, free up some wages, because if you're bringing in a Maddison and a Martinez, they're going to be big high earners at the club. So I think it makes sense from Arsenal to try and offer these players in part exchange. Some of these players do not want to remain at the Emirates right now. They know they're well down the pecking order in Arteta's first team plan. So they don't want a situation where they're keeping an unhappy player at the club, which they have done before with Mesut Ozil, and he was just draining the club of valuable wages. They're just sat on the sidelines, not playing. Arsenal don't want that to happen again. But the problem is, so far, the players that they're offering in these exchanges with possibly Inter and Leicester just haven't ticked any boxes for Inter Milan or Leicester to think, right, let's try and do a deal here for either of these two players. And that's the hold up. So until the selling club are ready to sell and agree something with Arsenal, unfortunately, Arsenal are just going to remain in deadlock right now. And talks are still ongoing. And I think you have to say it's a signal of intent from Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think signing Ben White was a big intention from the Gunners as well, to show that they're trying to work their way back into that top four. And if they got somebody like a Maddison and a Martinez, I think that would let the rest of the Premier League know that Arsenal mean business. And Stan Kroenke's finally putting his hand in his pocket to try and back his manager to try and get Arsenal back in to that top four, which we all know how vital it is for the big clubs to be in the top four.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to Arsenal, it isn't the way round that Arsenal or Man United wanted this improved process and behavior. But a lot of the sounds that came out after the Super League were these owners just assumed the Super League would go through. It would be the answer to all their not financial problems. These are billionaires, but in terms of the clubs would have this secured, guaranteed, gargantuan income forever, essentially. And they wouldn't have to worry about being successful to generate the income, if that makes sense. But there's almost this realization, because love or loathe the Glazers, they're not stupid business people. Love or loathe Kroenke, they're not stupid business people. They know that if Arsenal keep continuing to dwindle and stay in mid-table, all the renewals on sponsorship deals are going to be a hell of a lot lower, especially with no European football. Attendances will at some point wane. I mean, Manchester United are the biggest club in England and have been from a supporter's point of view for 60, 70 years. But go back and look at footage in the early Premier League years where the stadiums were not full before they were winning titles, or the first division before it became the Prem. They weren't selling the stadium out every week because people lose interest when you're not successful. So they have to respond in one way, shape, or form. And that's why I say that this kind of notion from some fans that the Maddison and Martinez links are PR, I just look through it and think it's actually the worst thing they can do, because nobody's stupid. Everyone's going to see through it, and it's just going to make them look worse. But be interesting to see how they transpire. Another player linked with them was Ramsdale, and of course Onana as well, goalkeepers. Any kind of developments in relation to Arsenal signing a new goalkeeper?
Yeah, it's still a top target to try and bring in this new goalkeeper before the window closes at the end of the month. It just seems they're not going to go away from this Aaron Ramsdale deal, despite Sheffield United making it difficult for them right now. 2 bids turned down. I believe they're preparing a third bid closer to 30 million to try and sign the England goalkeeper. Ramsdale obviously very keen to make this move happen. He wants to get back to the Premier League, and he would jump at the chance of moving to the Emirates Stadium. Crazily enough, I've heard recently that Sheffield United are holding out for 40 million for Ramsdale, which seems quite high in the current market, considering he's a goalkeeper who obviously is a good goalkeeper, but he's had 2 relegations on his CV in the last 2 seasons at Bournemouth and Sheffield United. But Arsenal's goalkeeping coach is still pushing for this deal. He says Ramsdale is the number one choice if they are to bring in a goalkeeper. Onana from Ajax obviously is banned at the minute and won't be back till later in the year. He would be a lot cheaper option, and also has a good pedigree. He's played Champions League football and everything else. But I think Arsenal want to try and get their squad together as soon as the window's closed, have everyone done and dusted, so they're ready to crack on from the start of the season. And fully expect them to get Ramsdale deal done, even though Sheffield United are trying to get as much money as they can as possible for the keeper. And I think if this next bid gets rejected, I would expect Ramsdale to try and force the issue and possibly hand in a transfer request or something like that, because obviously the EFL season starts this weekend, and the way it's looking right now, he could be starting in goal for Sheffield United, but come the end of the window, he will want to be back in the Premier League and at Arsenal, who have done their utmost to try and sign him so far.
There we go, Gunners. That's your comprehensive update from Pete. Make sure you've hit that like and that share button. You're subscribing to the Football Terrace, and you check out all of our social media accounts. The links are in the description below. Manchester United. It's been a very good summer for them so far. Sancho, of course, 100% across the line. Varane slightly delayed because of visa situations. Maybe they just forgot Brexit happened. I certainly forget that it happens day to day, and then you realize that people need visas and stuff from particular parts of the world now to come here where they never used to. But Varane is done. What's next? I mean, Saul Niguez, we mentioned with Liverpool earlier, is on the agenda. There's been some early contacts. Ruben Neves is a player that I know we spoke about on many occasions. Kieran Trippier as well. But are Man United focusing more now on trying to get some players out of the door? Or is there a lot, or is there still activity going on to secure sort of midfielders and covering the fullback areas?
Well, there's definitely activity going on at Old Trafford to try and improve the squad and strengthen the squad. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is keen to bring in a new right back. Kieran Trippier has been the number one target throughout the summer. But so far, they're finding Atletico Madrid a hard club to deal with right now. So that's the hold up on that one. Kieran Trippier would be very keen to move back to the Premier League and move to Manchester United. So no problems on the player side. That wouldn't be an issue. Just trying to agree a fee with Atletico Madrid, who are looking close to £35 million for Trippier right now. And probably that's a bit too steep for Manchester United unless they can get some players out the exit door at Old Trafford. The likes of Anthony Martial has been talked about. We've also had Diego Dallo, who's still at Man United, which probably a lot of people forget about, that he's still there because he's been out on loan a few times. So he can play right back. If they could sell him or move him on, that might free up wages and space in the squad for them to make an improved offer for Kieran Trippier. I think this one's probably going to go right on down to deadline, I think, for the Kieran Trippier one. And I think he's more than happy for that. He's ready for the green lights to make this move to Old Trafford. He's just waiting for the thumbs up from his representatives and from Atletico Madrid that a deal has been agreed and he will make his way to Old Trafford. So still hope for United that they can get this deal done, but until they up that offer, Atletico Madrid are not willing to do business. So United, as we've mentioned before, have already laid out big money this summer for Sancho and Varane. So I think for more incomings, we're probably going to have to see a few outgoings as well. And we'll see maybe the likes of a few players moving out. And we've also got the Paul Pogba situation hanging over whoever United might try to bring in to midfield, because it's still a position that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would like to improve. Even if Pogba stayed, he would probably like to bring a midfielder in. But if Pogba goes, that's going to heighten the need to bring in midfield reinforcements. So although it's been an exciting summer so far for everyone connected with United, I still think there's a few things to do before the window closes at the end of August.
Yeah, certainly some work still needing to be done. I think, obviously, of course, speaking to many Man United fans every day, every week, they feel a lot more relaxed going into this season as opposed to last year because the marquee signings are done very early for us. Ruben Neves is a player that I know that we spoke about on here before, that there's a lot of, he'd like to come and play for Man United. United, I think, have made some early inquiries into him. Has that progressed at all in the last week to 10 days?
Still ongoing, that one. United definitely are interested in him, and they've probably received a boost this week in the pursuit of Neves. We all know that Arsenal were very keen on the Portugal international as well, but now it seems with Granit Xhaka set to stay at the Emirates, I think that probably kills off Arsenal's chances of landing Neves. I don't think they could have Neves and Xhaka in the same midfield. Arsenal are looking for a bit more of a creative midfielder, so that clears the path for Man United maybe to step up their interest in Neves. He seems like the possible only option that Neves would have right now to move to another Premier League club would be Manchester United. And I think Wolves would find it pretty hard to turn down a sizable offer for the midfielder right now. So you're probably talking around 30 to 35 million. I think if Man United were to put that up on the table for Wolves, I think a deal could possibly happen here. Neves, although he's given out the right signals that he's focused on the new season, he's happy at Wolves, he isn't going to turn down the chance to go to Old Trafford. I think that would be something he would jump at right now. So, yeah, looks like it's a clear path for Neves for Manchester United if they really want to pursue this deal. Talks are ongoing, but again, maybe Man United, any deal here has been held up by possible departures. Until that happens, they're not going to push the button to try and sign Ruben Neves. But I think he's definitely probably very high on the list. And now Arsenal are out of the race. There's a real possibility this could happen.
Yeah, I think that actually helps United in one. It's someone out the way, but also it gives them a little bit more time, doesn't it? They haven't got to worry about Arsenal putting a bid in tomorrow, and then they have to gamble by saying, right, we don't quite know what's happening with Paul Pogba yet, and making their minds up. So it gives United a little bit more thinking time, a little bit more room to make their decisions in that regard. And a lot of people think a midfielder will come in, but of course, clearing out some of the older players, as you've already mentioned today, Pete, it is key because you don't want a bloated dressing room. One, from a financial standpoint, it isn't great to have 2 or 3 players getting paid, I don't know, collectively, what, 350,000 pound a week, but not kicking the ball. And also, it doesn't ruin the dressing room, but it can create a bit of a players are quite loyal to each other. I remember last year there was a few Man United players really upset with Ed Woodward because he didn't allow Sergio Romero to leave, and the players were disappointed because obviously they get on with Sergio Romero,
Yep.
and they want to go see him play, not sit in the stands for 12 months and not do anything. And I think Man United got to try and avoid the feel good factor. Seems brilliant. They've got to try and avoid those moments as well. In terms of Saul Niguez, I know that sort of there has been some early contact. Are United still looking at that, or is he very much seen as a Pogba replacement if Pogba was to leave?
I would imagine he's more of a Pogba replacement if they do decide to cash in on Paul Pogba before the window closes. As we said before in previous shows, Terry, Pogba's in the box seat here. He's in the final year of his contract. If he doesn't agree a deal with Manchester United, I don't think he will have any problem whatsoever running down his contract and leaving on a free transfer next summer. PSG are obviously around Pogba, but from what we're hearing, the two clubs are miles off in any type of valuation that Man United are looking for Pogba right now. So this one looks like it's going to drag on. United have been the long-term admirers of Saul Niguez even before Liverpool and Chelsea were mentioned. Saul Niguez has been mentioned in conjunction with Manchester United probably for the 2-3 seasons that United have been watching him. So I'm sure if they know he's available for as little as 40 million pounds, they're going to be in the reckoning for him. And the thing with United is, in comparison to Liverpool, the wages won't be an issue, I don't think. And I think they've probably got more revenue to maybe meet Atletico's asking price as well right now. And I'm sure if they're dealing with Atletico Madrid on Kieran Trippier, I'm sure Saul Niguez is also being mentioned in conversations between the power brokers at both clubs. So United will be fully abreast of the situation with Saul Niguez as there will be with Kieran Trippier. And I think if it came down to a straight fight between Manchester United and Liverpool for Niguez, you would probably think United are clear favourites if it did come down to that between the two clubs, that they would land the Spanish international.
Yeah, I would certainly pay that money, and I think with the, maybe there's a way of working a deal out here. It seems like Ati are really keen to get rid of Saul Niguez for a number of reasons. Maybe that's part of the negotiating plan. If Pogba was to leave, well, can we work out a deal? I don't know, 55 million for them both. I mean, what a collective that could be. And that's just a number I've made up off the top of my head. But I just sort of think with what we want for Trippier and what they want for Niguez, meet somewhere in the middle, maybe 60, 65 million for Kieran Trippier and Saul Niguez. I mean, sounds ridiculously cheap, but stranger things have happened this window. So be interesting to see how that transpires for Manchester United as well as we head towards the new season. Of course, Chelsea it's kind of weird. They haven't made any signings, but they've dominated the headlines. I'm saying make no signings, but by the time this goes out, maybe they've signed Lukaku by then. But Lukaku looks almost like a dead cert now, doesn't he, Pete, to come in and be a Chelsea player? Is that a surprise to you? Did you expect to see it? A lot of people are sort of surprised. They really thought it was going to be Haaland. What's your take on it now, looking 99% sure that it's going to be Lukaku?
Yeah, I'm not massively surprised. It's obviously ramped up over the last few days, this pursuit of Romelu Lukaku. I think we knew earlier in the summer that it was either Lukaku or Haaland that Chelsea wanted. If they couldn't get Haaland, they were going to move on to Lukaku. He was their next one in line to become their new number 9 for next season. It's seemingly they've not given up on Haaland, but they've sort of put that on the back burner right now because Borussia Dortmund aren't willing to do business. Dealing with Inter Milan probably right now is a more straightforward deal for Chelsea. We know Inter's financial situation; they are desperate for the cash, and Chelsea are one of those only clubs probably in Europe who have the cash to afford a Romelu Lukaku. I know we've had mentions of Manchester City being interested, but it seems like they've put all their eggs in the Jack Grealish and Harry Kane basket. So I think Romelu Lukaku is not a bad backup if you're a Chelsea fan to get him back in. I know there's been a few negative Chelsea fans that they're not that keen on having Lukaku back, which I'm surprised at, but he's gone away to Italy. He's reinvigorated himself after a disappointing spell at Man United. He's scored goals for Inter. He scored goals for Belgium at the Euros as well. I'm sure he's going to come back to Chelsea, a hungry player, maybe with a point to prove as well after his previous association with the Blues. But he's now the main man, and I think to get him in that Chelsea team will only strengthen them, and the European champions will be looking to go on achieve great things with Romelu Lukaku in that lineup next season. And it looks like Chelsea are going to benefit from Inter's financial woes because that's opened the door here for this Lukaku deal to happen. Chelsea have got the money and Inter badly need it.
Absolutely, they do. Jules Koundé, I say with bated breath. I mean,
You're hoping this is done?
Mate, I'm praying. My honestly, my kids are giving me dirty looks over it now. My kids are looking at it. As I said to you earlier, I'm personally really kind of comfortable, if that's the right word for a content creator, that this deal will go through. What's your interpretation of this deal with all the updates in the past couple of days?
Yeah, like you, I'm pretty confident that this deal will eventually happen. It just hasn't happened yet because Sevilla, they're looking top dollar for Jules Koundé, which they're well entitled to. But also, I think they want to bring in a replacement before they let him to leave. I don't think he's featured much in pre-season because Sevilla are pretty much planning for life without Jules Koundé. But they want to bring in somebody to fill his space in the team. I wouldn't rule out a possible move for Davinson Sanchez of Tottenham maybe to come into Sevilla. We all know that Chelsea offered Kurt Zouma as a make-weight in the deal to try and speed things up because that would have helped fill the void left by Koundé's departure. But Kurt Zouma rejected that. He didn't want to move to Spain. He wants to stay in the Premier League. And again, there was a possibility of him maybe moving to West Ham, which would have opened up a space for Koundé to move to Stamford Bridge. But that one's gone a bit cold as well due to the fee and his potential wages. West Ham are struggling to get anywhere near those. So Chelsea, like a lot of these clubs, which I think it's probably been a whole case of the pandemic, Chelsea are trying to make room in their squad to free up space to push through this deal for Koundé. It'll get done. It's just going to take a bit of time. So unless Chelsea can get rid of a Kurt Zouma, a Malang Sarr, a few other players, maybe to free up space in the squad and bring in a bit of money to pay towards Koundé's wages, I think this deal will wait until that happens. But I'm sure he will be a Chelsea player come the 31st of August. Chelsea will get this deal done. Jules Koundé wants it to happen. Sevilla are resigned to it happening, and Chelsea are desperate to get it done. So when all three of those parties are involved, and the deal should happen.
Yeah, and I think also, what I was told last week. I know that you alluded to it last week, and we spoke to numerous other people, but it was either the swap deal was going to happen, and if it didn't, then Zouma was going to go to West Ham, seemingly, and the money raised from that sale was going to be used to buy Jules Koundé. But with Zouma now looking like he's rejected West Ham as well, of course, it just slows things down a little bit, and that's what happens with these reports. This and this will happen, and then it'll be over, and now there's a curveball. But as you say, everyone's still determined to get the deal done. So I think the message to Chelsea fans is just relaxed. It takes a little bit longer, but he's clearly I think what's really encouraging from a Chelsea point of view is that Koundé is a long-standing target that they really want to sign for the football club. It hasn't sort of been done on a whim, and they could just walk away at any second. So yeah, really encouraging signs there indeed for Chelsea Football Club. No doubts about that whatsoever. We did put out a tweet asking what people wanted to ask and speak about. Most of that has already been covered. There's nothing really on there. A few people asking about CAMAVINGA. I don't suppose there have been any updates or any change in the CAMAVINGA situation in the last week.
No further news really on him. I don't think he's coming to the Premier League. I think Chelsea, Manchester United won't be able to do enough to convince him, even though it does seem all the money this year in the transfer market is to Premier League clubs. But I think Camavinga ideally wants to stay in France, and his next choice after that would maybe to move to Spain. But we all know a lot of the big Spanish clubs are struggling financially right now, so maybe not able to do a deal for Camavinga. So I think he will remain in France. Maybe a new deal at Rennes. I still think that's a distinct possibility with a buyout clause included in it, because I don't think his family really want him to leave and go to a new country right now. He's still a young player at 18, so I think Chelsea and United are going to be frustrated in their attempts to bring Camavinga to the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that one. The other player, another youngster tipped to the Prem is Tchouaméni, linked to Chelsea. It's another one of the questions. Last time we spoke, it was regarded as being sort of preliminary early talks, nothing advanced. Would you say that's still the case with Tchouaméni?
Yeah, still the case. He's definitely on Chelsea's radar. He's done very well for Monaco, but he's been playing for Monaco in their Champions League qualifiers. So I think a lot of his future might depend on what Monaco do there. If they do qualify for the group stages of the Champions League, they'll want to keep Tchouaméni there for that, to be playing in that tournament, because they won't want to lose some of their best players. So I think if Monaco are successful in their quest to reach the group stages of the Champions League, we'll probably find that out in the next couple of weeks. I would expect him to remain at the Principality, and his Premier League suitors like Chelsea will probably have to wait at least another 12 months before they're able to make a move for him.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. There is the Done Deal show today. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in, that's watched. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like and that share button. We'll be back again soon with more content. Real important group, though, set up in the description below on Telegram to make sure you receive all the notifications when the Football Terrace goes live. Sign up to that now. There's no spamming. We purely put in when we're going live or a new piece of content has come out, and there's no other messaging. Nobody else in the group can message you. It's all tight and secure. So go and sign up to that right now. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Pete, thank you very, very much. It's always a pleasure speaking, sir. And I wonder what trials and tribulations and thrills and spills will be in store in 1 week's time.
Yeah, plenty to come yet.
Absolutely. Take care, mate. Take care, everyone who's
tuned in.